Hello guys and welcome back to the Traitors New Zealand, and we are starting a brand new series, season 2. Now this season came out last year for the majority of people, however it has just landed in the UK on BBC iPlayer and I am ready to dive into this series and enjoy myself. Now unfortunately I won't be able to do more than one episode a week, however the last 2 weeks in August, I will be doing 2 episodes a week for the final 4 episodes. So effectively, we will be done with the Traitors New Zealand by August 23rd. Now, the reason for that is I wanted to give us a little lead up. Apparently, Celebrity Traitors is happening in September. So I'm super excited for that, and I know you guys are too. So I just wanted to give myself a little bit of a bridge to Celebrity Traitors. But either way, we are going to jump straight into this. I'm super excited and I know you guys are too. So without much further ado, let's start talking about everything Traitors New Zealand. So I've got written down some first impressions on the cast. We were introduced to them via some little confessionals and introducing themselves to other people. And here were some of the things that I noted down. First of all, Whitney is a funeral director. She was the first person that we were formally introduced to, I think, on the show. And I think funeral director, yeah, okay, interesting. She's got good skills. She's one of these people that asks a lot of questions and just listens to people give her answers. So I think that this potentially could be a good asset for her in this game. Then we find out that Mark, who actually has a walking stick, is a dungeon master and he runs these kind of social deduction games for a living. So clearly he should have some idea about how this kind of game works. He's gonna know what he's doing, etc, etc. So I feel like that could either really help him or really bite him in the arse, and I have a feeling probably gonna be the second one. Then we've got the fact that Brittany is apparently a TikToker. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't really bonded with Brittany yet. We saw like 2 confessionals from her and I was like, oh, she's nice, I guess. Then we've got the fact that Joe claims that he is 22, but he's actually 30, which was actually quite funny. I think he's another TikToker person. It's nice that this series, we've got entirely civilians. I think that the first season was a nice blend of both of them because I didn't know who they were. They didn't feel like celebrities to me. But this season, they're all normal people, which I think works better for this style of Traitors. I feel like if you're going to do a celebrity season, it needs to be all celebrities or none at all. That's why the first season of US was good, but it didn't quite match the heights of seasons 2 and season 3, because in season 2 and season 3 most of them are all reality stars that know how to play these kind of games and know how to make good reality content, whereas sometimes you get people on the show that don't know how to do that kind of thing. So I've got 2 more first impressions, and the first one is Jackie. Jackie introduced herself as a columnist, and then it was revealed that she's actually a psychic tarot card reader. Now, we always have a psychic on these shows, and every single season they turn out not to be so psychic. So I'm very interested to see what she's like. She's an older lady, I think she's 70. She seems like she's a good vibe, and I'm really excited to see how she gets on. She seems fun, she seems bubbly, so I feel like there's going to be some good content made from her there. And then last but not least, we had Donna and Jane. Donna and Jane apparently worked together, and Jane had no clue that they worked together, and that was really funny. Also, Jane, British icon. I have a feeling that she's going to be very, very interesting. I'll talk more about her in a little bit, but she was definitely giving me good vibes, let's just put it that way. So it wouldn't be the Traitors if we didn't start out with a first twist right out of the gates. We had Paul standing there, and Paul's actually a very good host. I feel like there actually isn't a bad host of the Traitors that I've watched. I feel like all of them have their own quirks, their own energy. They all bring something different to the table. You've got Claudia, who's sort of like this mischievous little imp. You've got, what's his face in America? Alan Cumming, who is extremely eccentric and so over the top, and it just creates so much drama. Then you have, ooh, what was his name? The Australian guy. It started with an R. I know who I'm talking about. he was just very sort of suave with it. He was like, yeah, how could you not get the traitors, guys? Come on. And then you've got Paul, who you actually believe is this sort of like stately manor owner. And it just fits the vibe so well, I can't lie. But anyway, Sam, who won last season of New Zealand Traitors, is actually his butler now, which means he's probably blown all of his winnings, let's be honest, and he needs a job. And it was actually funny because he was carrying some drinks out and offering them to people. And he had two people, Molly and Whitney, who picked up the glass that had like red rosé in it, I think it was. And they were like, oh shit, I just picked it because I like rosé. No shit, what does this mean? And I was standing there going, this is so funny. This is hysterical. Everything is a twist in this game. And you thought, yeah, let me pick the one that's different from everyone else. Yeah, nah, you're taking the mick, mate. You're taking the absolute piss. But unfortunately, it did turn out to be a good thing. And it turned out to be £5,000 in cash. So I was like, oh, well, 5,000 New Zealand dollars in cash, which is like 2 grand, I think. What is actually the conversion rate? So 5,000 New Zealand dollars is £2,225, which is nothing to shake your head at the end of the day. It's a decent prize just for picking a rosé drink. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we all know what sparkling rosé is like in the UK. Can kill you. But either way, I thought this was a nice twist. They were given the option of keeping the money and playing the game or adding that money to the prize pot. I would have kept the money. I can't lie. I would have kept the money because at least then I'm walking out of this game £2,000 richer. Do you know what I mean? Even if I'm voted off day 1 or I'm voted off day 2, I've still got 2k. So I've got 3 people that we found out more information from through the interviews with Paul, and I have to say each of them are giving main character energy, which is really, really nice. We've got Mark, who I mentioned earlier is the social deduction game person, the person who runs those games. Now, I mentioned that he had a walking stick earlier, and it's because he has chronic fatigue, which is very interesting because this game, it definitely has some physical aspects to it. But he said that he's actually going to be playing this up a little bit more than it actually is and making it so that people really believe that he has some kind of serious illness and therefore they'll feel bad about voting him off. I think it's an interesting strategy, but I don't know how long you're going to be able to subconsciously remember to do all of what you're saying that you need to do. So that was very interesting. Then we came to Jane, our British queen. Honestly, I'm glad that we got a Brit on the series. Gives me someone to root for. Whoop, whoop. And she informed us that she's actually ex-police. She did 25 years in the police. And yeah, now she's some kind of person in the council. Cool. I'm intrigued to see how she gets on. She seems like she's got a dark side to her, so I feel like she might actually be very interesting. And then, speaking of law enforcement, we've got Jason, who has been in the Marines, he's been in the Navy, he's been in everything. The police, literally everything, I'm fairly certain he said. And he introduced himself as a professional weed puller because he's now a landscaper, which if you've been watching my Survivor series, Guatemala, then you'll know that there's another person on that series that claims to be a landscaper when he actually used to be a professional footballer, a professional American footballer, that is. So clearly landscaping is just the natural jump to what you do after you've had a successful career. Clearly it's the thing to do. So it's time to pick the traitors, and I have to say I feel like they picked the best possible people for this job. They picked Jane, our British queen. They picked Whitney, the funeral director. I mean, come on, it was made for her, let's be honest. Main character energy, am I right? And then Mike was also made a traitor. I'm less sure about this guy. I don't really know anything about him. I can't remember his job. I can't remember literally anything about him other than the fact that he was willing to swap with Whitney when she picked the rosé at the start of the episode. So I don't really know enough about him to really question him and be like, ooh, I don't know about that. I don't know about that one. But either way, I feel like we've picked 3 good traitors, strong. They each have very different personalities from what I can tell. So I feel like they might be able to go under the radar at least for a couple of episodes. But I do think that this group of faithful are a lot smarter than I think I'm giving them credit for currently. Because immediately there were some suspicions. So immediately, and when I tell you immediately, Terry's already clocked Jane. Terry's already clocked that Jane could be a traitor because she immediately took 3 sips of water from her cup. And I was sitting there going, oh, for fuck's sake. How have we already identified one of the traitors just by how they went and drank water straight away? It's like the correct answer. And the method is like, huh? How did you get to that conclusion? I'm just thirsty, do you know what I mean? Oh, she took 3 deep swallows. And I'm sitting there going, no, please, not my British Queen Jane. Please, no, not her. Anybody but her. And then we had Mike being sussed immediately by Brianna. I was like, oh my god, brilliant. So Brianna's already on to the fact that Mike could be a traitor. Excellent. Then we had, I'm really going to butcher this name because they never actually said it on screen. Ciali? I don't know. It's one of the guys. He was quite a built guy. I don't remember how to say his name, so I will pay attention to that in the next episode. But he also clocked Whitney as the funeral director and how she could be a good traitor. So immediately I'm sitting here thinking, all 3 of the traitors immediately got sussed. Immediately. And also, I have to just put this out there, that this is obviously selective editing. They're going to show us people who are having suspicions on the people who are traitors. They're not going to randomly show Jason over there being suspicious on Margaret. Do you know what I mean? When Margaret's not a traitor and neither's Jason. So they're not going to show us that. They're going to show us the people who are like, oh, it could be one of these people, and they actually are a traitor. It's selective editing, so I wouldn't be too disheartened that they've all been clocked immediately. I think people just throw names out based on little things, and the editors have gone, oh, they've clocked this person, and this person's a traitor. Therefore, we're going to include it in the episode. We also had Whitney and Jackie bringing up Matt, which I thought was interesting, and nothing more really went there, but they do seem to be sort of driving that kind of wedge between Matt and the others. No, not Matt. Mark and the others. Mark, the one with the chronic fatigue and the stick. And the fact that he was smiling after the pick. There's a lot of things that they brought up, and I was like, yeah, that does sound suspicious, but obviously I know Whitney's a traitor, so she's just egging it on, do you know what I mean? So the mission was fairly fine. It was a mission and it was okay. I don't really have anything else to say about it, really. The idea was that they were split into groups and they were given riddles, and the riddles led them to a location, and they were to find a part of a doll's body. It was a little bit creepy and a little bit weird. The riddles were fun. It was nice to see them work it out, but equally, I don't think we've really explored the grounds of this stately home enough to be like, oh my god, it's this place. Like with the Traitors in the UK, they give you like a nice little visual map, and they're like, oh, they're going to this location. But in this challenge, I was a little bit confused where they were going. I was like, how far away is this, etc, etc. There were a couple of awkward moments, like Mark completely missed the doll's leg, and I thought, oh, that's going to come up as a plot point as to how he's a traitor, even though the traitors are wanting to do well in the mission as well. Like, the missions have no... They don't have any drawback for anybody. They just compete for money. Like, at least with the mole, there's some kind of incentive for the traitors to muck things up, or for the mole to screw things up because it's stopping them getting money. Like, I feel like there's just some kind of aspect that they could add into this to make it more entertaining, because I gotta say, the entire way through the mission, scrolling. Because I was like, I don't care for this. This is not the part of the episode that I'm interested in, because we know they're going to do well. And did well, they did, because they did do well. I think they're actually split into 5 groups now, I'm thinking about it, because it was 5 grand and then they doubled their cash to 10 grand. So, yeah. They doubled their cash by going into the cursory, which was like a room filled with dolls. And effectively, the idea was they had to find an eye hidden in the room. So fairly standard stuff, let's be honest. So honestly, not a great challenge, but I guess it was okay for like the first one. I mean, it was better than the last series where it was like, run around and find me as many things as you can. It was like, at least it had a little bit more substance to it, I guess. But that means that the prize pot is now at 20,000, which is, if I check my conversion, 8.9 grand. Okay, that actually isn't that good. Oh, I don't know why I thought that was going to be really impressive. New Zealand, what's your currency like, besties? So we are up in the tower and there was a twist from the get-go. Paul strolls in with his fancy cane and informs them, you can pick another traitor. And I was like, ooh, okay. So we're doing the season 2 twist where the season 2 of the UK, that is. And maybe season 3 of the US, actually, where they could pick the third traitor. That is completely incorrect because they didn't do that on season 3. Rob became the fourth. So was it season 2? Oh yeah, it was season 2 because they chose Parvati. Yes, that's correct. So effectively, this was an interesting choice. I think the traitors that we've got at the moment, they're a good mix of sort of personalities and temperaments as well. And they wanted to bring somebody in that they could use as a bait to give to the faithful to essentially appease them for the time being and take the heat off of them. Oh, this was where I was like, oh, the options they came up with enticed me, but there was only one that really seemed like a solid shout. And the solid shout was Mark. Because Whitney has already put effort in with Jackie to spread the word about Mark potentially being suspicious. In fact, other people have also clocked him as well and been questioning why he's not really part of the group. He sometimes goes off on his own. He was writing notes, which is dangerous. And it also could be a sign that he's a traitor and he's just trying to make mental notes. I don't know. But I feel like Mark was the smart shout. But they decided to go with Jackie. And obviously Jackie was going to accept. But I'm not entirely happy with them bringing in this 70-year-old woman, the 70-year-old clairvoyant, and they're willing to sort of like ship her off to the glue factory. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not a great idea to bring somebody in and immediately betray them. So I feel like they need to play a couple of days of just calmness and then throw somebody under the bus. But I don't think that Jackie is the correct answer, because I think people will trust Jackie. So that is pretty much it for the first episode. I was wishing that we had had a round table or just something, because I feel like it was kind of an anticlimactic episode. I wanted that round table moment. But the teaser for the next episode, it looks juicy. It looks absolutely juicy, and it seems like that first round table is going to pop off. So I am super, super excited. So if you guys have enjoyed the episode, then make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. I will see you back next week for another episode of The Traitors New Zealand, where we will be discussing episode 2. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But until then, make sure to keep on ranting, and I'll see you guys later. Bye now. See ya.